Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Sahith Reddy here, and we're having Mr. Daniel with us today from Europe, and he works for an R&D organization, and we're doing second video with him today. And okay, Mr. Daniel, what do you think about the communication in space industry? How it's going to impact us in the future?
Yes, right. So this is a very hot topic nowadays. Communications, 5G, these IoT devices that are coming on. I think they're going to really change the world we live in.
Yeah.
We will have much more data than we've ever had in a matter of a few seconds.
That's true, yeah.
And we'll be gathering a lot of information from a lot of places, and we'll be able to put sensors everywhere and monitor everything, to the point that the cars will drive on their own and so on. Mm-hmm. And we might be able to remove lots of antennas that we have around by using space technologies and all these big constellations that are supposed to provide data in a much more fast track.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. And how do you think that the IoT, right, the Internet of Things, are going to impact us as a community in future?
The IoT, this Internet of Things, I think it has a very strong point in allowing to put a whole set, millions of nodes around the globe. Doesn't matter where they are, in the middle of the ocean or in the middle of deserts or rainforests and all that, and measure all the key data parameters that we need to improve the world we live in. And this has a high impact not only on climate change, but also in terms of exploring how the things are changing in cities, improving the transport, monitoring animals moving around the globe, and making sure that we keep a good pace and a good growth in some of the breeds of animals or migrations or regarding the plants, the air we are breathing, and so on and so forth. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see how all this is blooming, and how all these nodes that are already being distributed, but how they are really maximized or deployed in an efficient way to gather a lot of relevant and critical information.
And what do you think about how communication is going to impact the climate change?
So I see it a bit perhaps the other way around.
Okay.
So how the climate change can make use perhaps of communication.
Okay.
Because I'm all the time thinking on the space industry, of course. There is this high percentage of all the sustainable goals that they really need to make use of a space, to gather all the data to tackle and to solve some of the most critical challenges that we have ahead in the next years. And the communication is a key aspect. You need to bring down all this data, and sometimes you need to bring it fast. And for that, there are a whole set of new technologies. Some of them is laser communication, for instance, that they allow not only to send huge amounts of data in a fast way, but also to send them in a safe way. So you need to know where the satellites are, where the links are, and how the information is encrypted. And this way you can get quick access to key data sets.
Yeah, that's true. And if you talk about 5G, how do you think it's going to impact the space industry or any other industry in general, as per your experience?
5G is going to have a massive impact, I think, in a whole set of industries. The car driving industry is a good example of this, but this will have a huge impact in many others, starting with us being even more in the cloud as nowadays, right? Being able to share big amounts of information and having even more immersive experiences through devices that will close the gaps or distances even more by having this virtual reality, augmented reality, and these very interesting immersive experiences that will have a high impact in education, but also in keep yourself being trained, getting acquainted with new technologies, with new environments that before you wouldn't have access in such a direct way.
Okay. So how do you think that collaboration, instead of competition, collaboration is really important in the space industry. How do you answer this?
This is a tricky one. Sometimes you need a bit of competition to speed up and improve the technologies in a fast way. We are seeing all these things nowadays with the rocket and the propulsion industry, and like few companies such as SpaceX, Blue Origin, and so on, having their little space race to see who makes it more efficient and in terms of reusing rockets and all that. So sometimes competitions, I think it's proved in the past that it's really good. In some other cases, releasing patents or releasing concepts or ways of doing things and know-how, this open source community, I think it's very positive and it has a high impact in the society. So it's a bit of a trade-off, as usual.
Yeah, that's true. And recently there was a technology which was invented by Surrey Space Center, I think so. It's related to space debris. So it was in collaboration with Airbus, where they launched a satellite and it captured the debris. Okay, the mission was successful, but they want global collaboration so that they can implement this mission with a huge amount of investment. So what do you think about this kind of things? Because you need collaboration. One person, one entity or one organization actually cannot invest that much amount of money, such as Apollo program, you know, consists of billions of dollars was invested in the Apollo program, and now it's actually stopped. What do you comment? How do you comment on it?
Yeah, collaboration is very important. A good example is the ISS.
Yeah.
And that's a very good example on how a lot of countries or a lot of global institutions, they gather together to do a massive project, right? Going back to your example of debris, that's also another good example in which everybody has to make efforts in reducing all this space debris that we have. Some tests, as you were mentioning, using different technologies to capture them with kind of nets or harpoons or different systems with tethers and so on, are really progressing well. But we as a society, as a whole, we need to be conscious on implementing all these things. There are these international regulations of the orbiting satellites after a certain amount of time, and I think that electric propulsion will have a key role in the orbiting satellites, in maybe capturing these dead bodies that we have orbiting and then getting them back. There are these technologies such as the sails, the solar sails, and passive systems and all that. And we're going to see a lot of progress in these fields, and I hope we're going to be much more sustainable in deploying assets to space and then decommissioning them and deorbiting them in a safe, controlled, sustainable environment.
Yeah, that's really true. And I see a huge amount of involvement of the industry as well as the academia into picture in Europe and United States specifically, right? So how do you see it in future, where in some countries academia is entirely different and industry is entirely different, and they don't do projects together. For example, the National University of Singapore, they do a lot of projects only with the industry so that it can be commercialized as soon as possible once it's invented. So what's your comment on that?
Right. Here I see a bit of a trend with emerging countries. Emerging countries normally the way they progress, you know, all these things we were mentioning, is that they put the focus on the university or in a research institution. And after that, the industry follows up, or then the space agencies are created, or and then the country is moving on as a space industry, or as a space country, if you want to call it. So I really see universities and research institutions as a cornerstone when regions on the world are starting to do something new, or they are stepping on space activities. And as soon as the first satellites are launched, normally led by professors or by universities and so on, then you start to see an ecosystem growing around it.
So students are coming in, researchers are coming in, experts are coming into picture, and it's growing slowly.
Yes, and then you see spin-offs, and then you see startups that are a bit of a trend nowadays. and you can just see the thing building up, right? As soon as you launch the first satellite or the 2 or 3 satellites, then you get expertise, know-how, and there are a lot of things that you can do using space as a tool. And it's very interesting to see all these countries, how they are building up on all this. And in that direction, I'm working a bit on providing key tools in terms of software and hardware to simplify this process of getting used to this whole world. Sometimes it's sending a satellite into space, and there's a lot more that's going to be done in that direction. So people will have access to much better tools to learn and literally to build and launch sensors experiments, what we call payloads, into space for each particular purposes that the country established. And it's quite inspiring to see these cases that they start at university, then they move on to some kind of research institutions or space agencies, then there's like a startup spin-offs appearing, and then it's a bit blooming in certain regions of the world. And Singapore, I guess, is another good example.
And I see that, for example, nowadays even in PhDs, some of the PhDs that they're doing in collaboration with the industry, and that's really important because once you graduate, right? So you know where the industry is moving towards, and you know what's actually happening in the industry. If you have a good amount of knowledge about that, so based on that you can go forward in the future and get your future job.
Absolutely. Universities give a good insight on all this. Doing a PhD or when you do your master thesis, you can get a good insight in a specific field, and then you can scratch a bit more far away than the surface, and then just from a sudden you discover a particular technology that you can become an expert on it, and that's it. And just from a sudden you have a sensor or you have a mission around a particular technology, and that's very interesting. And curiosity, at the end of the day, it's what sparks the evolution of technologies and of science and so on. So if I have to give a message, it would be to keep curious, keep making questions, keep trying to find out how things work and how things are done, so you can go one step further and improve the technologies that are already in place.
No, that's really wonderful. So curiosity is one of the main important thing where it should have in every children. Like it should have in children as a youth, basically, right? That's really important, and they should have hands-on experience as per what you said, and industrial knowledge as well as that's it. With curiosity you can build everything.
We live in a world that there is a whole set of concepts and knowledge in the cloud. There's access to a whole set of tools in terms of electronics, hardware, subsystems, software, simulation tools, and all this, that they are just at your reach by just Googling to say it somehow, or by just checking around your network, right? And that's gonna keep increasing the availability of these tools, the suitability, the smooth way of getting acquainted with these tools. And I think if you have this curiosity, sometimes it's a difficult aspect to keep the ambition and the curiosity and basically the willingness to learn new concepts active. As soon as this is there, then the tools are gonna keep being there, and they're gonna keep improving.
So there are a lot of opportunities out there because the industry is picking up right now. So the only thing you want to do right now is go forward with curiosity, meet as much as people as possible, gain as much as information as possible, and go forward and don't overthink. Right?
Exactly.
That's really important. So thank you very much, Mr. Daniel, for sharing your insights with us today, and I really appreciate it for taking your time for being here today.
Thank you.
Okay guys, that's it for today, and if you like my video, click the like button and subscribe to my channel, and if you have any questions, write in the comment section below, and that's it, so that we know that what you really want in my upcoming videos. And thank you. Have a nice day.